It is time, the most wonderful time of the week, the greatest time of the week. Andy Backstrom's in the middle. Tim May is on the other side of the screen. We are doing this virtually because we've got things going on Friday morning when we normally do this video. It is bold predictions.
Wait, I thought we were doing it because we're modern. We're in the modern era. Go ahead.
We are, Tim. We are in the modern era.
I'm
And
AI. I'm not even really me.
you're just a hologram, a
I'm
shell of
May
your
I.
former self.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, kick us off. Bold prediction for Ohio State, Iowa, 3:30 on CBS.
I think this will be Emeka Egbuka's best game so far this season. I'm saying he has at least 150 receiving yards. You look at Iowa's defense, they're near the run defense. They are not near the top of the country in pass defense. And they've actually given up 3 pass plays of 60 or more yards this season. They're last in the Big Ten in that category. And their slot defensive back, Sebastian Castro, has been targeted more than anyone else on their team. I think Emeka Egbuka, who's mostly in the slot for Ohio State, will get some great opportunities, and I say he gets at least 150 receiving yards against Iowa.
Tim?
Boy, Andy jumping on that EE train. I see it, man. You know the philosophy I have: when in doubt, air it out. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say Quinshon Judkins rushes for a minimum 100 yards against this proud Iowa defense. Quinshon Judkins 100 yards plus against Iowa's vaunted defense. Final answer.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. Caleb Johnson is really, really good. But in the second half against Iowa State, he started off the half with a 54-yard run. After that 54-yard run to open the second half, he had runs of 5, 3, 3, 0, 0, -2, -3, 8, 2, 1, 7, 2, 3, -1, and 0. None of those numbers are double digits. Okay? You can stop him. Iowa State.
Could you repeat those runs again?
No. Iowa State figured out exactly what the Iowa offense was doing, not just handing the ball off to him, but in the manner they were doing it, how they were doing it, the defensive adjustments that Iowa State and Heacock, their defensive coordinator, made in the second half there were brilliant. I expect Jim Knowles to do the same. I do not expect Caleb Johnson to be able to run the ball really, really well against this Ohio State defense anyway. So I know this might not sound bold, but he's the second leading rusher in America. I'm going to say that Caleb Johnson rushes for under 100 yards in this game. I think Ohio State bottles him up. I think the Buckeyes have a knack for doing this to these proud Big Ten rushing attacks. In the past, we've seen it against some really, really damn good Wisconsin running backs where Ohio State just completely limits what they're able to do. I think Ohio State is going to make it a point that if you're going to beat us, it will be through the air with Cade McNamara. So I'm going to take Caleb Johnson under 100 rushing yards in this game, and I think Ohio State's going to be able to find some success against him. Andy, offensive player of the game?
I'm going Will Howard. I think this is a big Will Howard game. I think every week of the season, he's had another kind of challenge. Last week at Michigan State, it was the first real adversity he faced, throwing an interception, taking a big hit, being removed from the game for one offensive play, coming back really strong in the second half. I think this is going to be another test for him because, if they don't have the success that Tim's talking about on the ground with Quinshon or Travion, he's going to have to throw the ball in third and long situations and move the chains. And I think we've still been waiting for him to make some of those big throws. We saw it a little bit last week with a 4th and 5 conversion, a 4th and 3 conversion. I think he'll get more of those tests this week against Iowa, which is a good thing because you got Oregon coming up. And I think he'll pass those tests. And I don't know if he'll get the 300 yards. I predicted that last week. He didn't. But I think he will play the full game this time. And I do think he'll have the best offensive game of any player for Ohio State, or maybe just the most important offensive game.
Tim?
Yeah. I mean, when in doubt, air it out. That's my second time I'm saying that. I'll probably say it again here in a minute. But bottom line is the thing that Ohio State, what makes this team special, what has made it special for a long time, but definitely this year, they have a running game and a passing game. So if you sell out to stop one, you're really putting yourself in jeopardy on the other side. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Andy and Spence, I'm having Jeremiah Smith is going to be my offensive player of the game. He's going to have at least 2 major big-time over-the-top catches in this game, despite what Iowa may do to take that away. Jeremiah Smith, Offensive Player of the Game. Final answer.
Okay. I see where you guys are going with this.
Yeah, I got both Player of the Game and Offensive Player, or major bold prediction and Offensive Player of the Game are both on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, I hope your offensive player.
I know. Lathan Ransom would have qualified in that opener, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's true, Tim. Okay, so I will go a little off the board here. Ohio State gonna have to control the line of scrimmage if they're gonna beat Iowa. It is a hallmark of how you beat Iowa. Another way is if you're gonna run the ball effectively against Iowa, you have to get to the second level and block these Iowa linebackers who are very, very sound. They're very, very good. They know exactly what they're doing. I believe this is a game where we finally realize the impact that Donovan Jackson has had on these last two games in his return. I know that, it's you see him out there, and it's hard to notice just how good he is because, he's an offensive guard. But I think you're going to feel him on Saturday. You're going to be able to notice him out there, the combo blocks with Seth McLaughlin, then him getting to the second level and blocking linebackers like Jay Higgins. Those guys are really, really good players for Iowa. And it takes a special player to get to the second level and block this Iowa front. I think Donovan Jackson is a special player. And so in the run game, you're going to see some things sprung free by this offensive line being able to get outside with their athleticism and get out of just the 5-man with their athleticism. I think Donovan Jackson's going to really have a nice game. And so I think that's going to be my pick for offensive player of the game. I know that's a little unorthodox. It's a little difficult to peg down, just how good they are, especially because all we get is the PFF numbers and snap counts. But when you do the rewatch on Sunday, you'll notice 74 out there blocking those linebackers and springing some runs free. So I'll take Donovan Jackson.
Yeah, the experts and his mother will notice, but I went that route once before, and I noticed that people really notice the guys who go over 100 yards doing anything. So I'm sticking with mine. How about you, Anders?
Yeah, but I think that's a good pick from Spencer because this offensive line, defensive line matchup, probably the biggest in the game. So I like that pick.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not going to be worthy. I'm just saying, when the vote comes in.
When the vote comes in. There you go, Tim. Happy election season. Andy, defensive player of the game.
Yeah, kind of on that theme. I'm going to the defensive line, and I'm going Tyleik Williams because it'll be his first game back. And I think they really missed him the last couple of games. The defensive tackle depth is there in ways. It's there in the kind of play 10, 15 snap ways. I don't think it's really there to have a guy come in and start and you feel really good against a team like Iowa has such a good rushing attack as we talked about. I think Tyleik Williams will be really important, not only absorbing blocks, but actually making those tackles, whether it's in his gap or out of his assigned gap against Caleb Johnson. So I'm going Tyleik Williams. I think they're going to be happy to have him back, and I think he's going to make his presence known.
Yeah, Tyleik Williams is built for these kind of games, but I'm thinking what he and his mates do up front is going to set the table for the defensive player of the game who has been activated, Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, safety. Final answer. He's been activated according to Jim Knowles. We saw it last week, using him all over the field. And the funny thing is, it sounds like when you make a comment about Caleb Downs, you might be taking away from Lathan Ransom. I think both these guys are playing at an extremely high level, the best safety tandem in the country. But Caleb Downs, a defensive player of the game. Final answer.
Ohio State fans, let me tell you something about Rhoback active wear. There's only one way to describe Rhoback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback just released their new game day collection, and it's awesome. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and Q-zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing this level of custom designs with the quality of activewear. Rhoback does it better. Rhoback's everyday short are the perfect pairing as well. They are comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short, but the comfort of athletic shorts. Rhoback is also proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with college stars Jalen Milroe, the quarterback at Alabama, Quinn Ewers, quarterback at Texas, former Buckeye, and Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, one of your favorite players on the team. I know it. Among others, they're becoming the go-to brand for college athletes. They've got a lot of Ohio State stuff. The Blocko on some things, Ohio State logos all over those polos. Use the code Lettermen20 on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off. For all new customers through the end of the week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with the code Lettermen20. Go check it out. Rhoback Activewear. Enter the code Lettermen20 for 20% off your first purchase from our friends over at Rhoback. I've been rocking the Rhoback hoodie for a long time. Come join the fun. You've been wanting Rhoback. Now you've got a chance to get some Rhoback and get the Ohio State logo on Rhoback. Go to Rhoback.com, Lettermen20 for 20% off your first purchase from the folks over at Rhoback. I see why both you guys made your selections, and
You can pick the same ones, man. We can agree.
I don't want to pick yours, Tim. That's a terrible pick. No, I'm just messing with you. If Andy goes defensive line, Tim goes secondary. It leaves me one choice. I'm going with one of the linebackers. These linebackers have taken quite a bit of heat the last 2 weeks, and I sort of agreed with some of the assessment of play, especially from Sonny Styles. Just seems like a half a step behind in reacting to things. He's blockable, I think, at times, but I don't think he's playing poorly overall. And Jim Knowles kind of perked up my ears when he said that he's actually pleased with Sonny Styles, which is, something that maybe I didn't expect to hear from him. I don't think he was going to throw him under the bus. He's not Hugh Freeze. He's not just going to throw players under the bus. But I do think that he's, I was anxious to hear what he had to say about Sonny. And he said that he needs to put him in better positions. They're putting a lot on his plate. Well, there's not much to put on linebackers' plates when you play Iowa. See ball, get ball in the run game. I think this is the perfect opportunity for Sonny Styles to shine because there's not as much reading and reacting to do. These corners are going to be put on islands because the Ohio State defense does not think Cade McNamara can beat them with these receivers. So the linebackers are going to probably be asked, do you see run? Attack run. I think this is the perfect game for Sonny Styles to set his tone for the next few weeks of the season. And so I'm going to take Sonny Styles as my defensive player of the game because when you get an athlete like him, the ability to just pull the trigger and go, I think that's where he's the best. And so he's going to have to be good playing in the box against this run game. I really like the matchup here for him. And maybe he's not completely fixed on Sunday morning when we do the rewatch, but I do think he'll pop a little bit just because he's got that ability to just read and react and go. So I'm going to take Sonny Styles as my defensive player of the game. Andy, we got to have these score predictions. This is probably the most difficult score prediction that we've got so far this year, just because it's kind of hard to get a read on the game script. Will Iowa hold the ball? Will Iowa, try to come out throw Ohio State off? Can Ohio State score in bunches on this Iowa defense? Like, I think this is a pretty difficult one to pin down when it comes to score predictions. What do you got for me?
I'm going 34-13 Ohio State. I'm really curious to see what kind of start Ohio State has, especially on the defense side of the ball. We've seen really all season opponents have a little bit of wiggle room on those first couple of drives to move the football. I'm wondering if Iowa can do the same thing. But offensively, I think Ohio State will have more than enough firepower to win this game. Another fun, bold prediction I'm going to throw in there, which you guys are going to think is ridiculous. Patrick Gert, touchdown. Mitch Rossi scored a touchdown in the 2022 meeting between these teams. Patrick Gert is basically the next Mitch Rossi for this team. They use him a little bit less maybe, but look, I'm going to throw that one in there. I think it's 34-13 Ohio State. I think they get the job done before the trip to Eugene, and I think we're going to learn a lot about Will Howard and also this defense.
Wow. Okay.
I like that. I like that Patrick Gerd bonus offensive whatever. Not player of the game, player of the day, or player of the play. But I'm going Ohio State 41, Iowa 13. That's looking at scouring Iowa's results to date. I think they're a good team, not a great team. Iowa State, as Spence pointed out, Iowa State figured them out defensively. I'm talking about Iowa State's defense. Iowa State can do the same and keep Caleb Johnson at least in check. But Ohio State 41, Iowa 13. That's just my feel for this game. I was going to stick with my plan of picking Ohio State to score at least minimum 50 points in every game this year, but they got thwarted last week. So since they scored 38, I'm picking them to score in the 40s again. And because that's a lot against this Iowa defense. Ohio State 41, Iowa 13. Final answer.
So you know how I am, guys. I think that the folks in Vegas are pretty smart, which is why there are skyscrapers and big spheres in Vegas, and then we all live in, homes, and not skyscrapers and mansions. So Vegas does know things. But here's the thing that Vegas hasn't.
I got a picture of Siegfried and Roy. They live Roy's house. It's an actual house, but I don't think anybody lives in it anymore. But go ahead, though.
All right. Well, so Ohio State, the total has gone over in 3 of the 4 Ohio State games so far. Here's where it gets weird, though. The total has gone over in all 4 of Iowa's games so far this year. Vegas doesn't know what to do with this Iowa offense because it's better than it was last year. It's still not any good, though. So where do you go with it? I don't know. And it appears that the fine folks out in the desert don't know either. The total on this game is 45.5. Ohio State is a 19.5-point favorite as of Thursday morning. I guess we'll finally reveal that we don't do these things exactly on Friday morning. So it's just so weird to me to see that stat because we were so used to just, okay, what's the total in the Iowa game? 29.5. It's probably still going to go under. So I just think that this is really interesting, this matchup and the way that the desert sees this playing out. I'm going to go Ohio State 34, Iowa 10. That puts us right at that total. It still puts it under, which makes me a little uneasy. But this Ohio State defense showed me something last week. I know people want to be up in arms about it, and there's a lot of nits to pick here when you have a defense with this high of expectations. But, after those couple drives there against Michigan State, and I know that you can't just throw those away, but the Ohio State defense tightened up and did not give away anything. Well, if you got a one-dimensional team like Iowa, then I think it's even easier to make those adjustments on the fly. So Iowa might get something early with Caleb Johnson on the ground or even a trick play that gets somebody open. But you're not going to fool Jim Knowles twice. So I'm going to go 34-10 and take Ohio State to win and cover, but that under is going to hit for the first time in an Iowa game this year.
What's Ohio State giving up? Ohio State's given up 27 points total this season. I think that was the number that Anders Backstrom dropped on everybody right after the game the other night when we were standing on the field about to get mowed over by a mower. I don't understand the up in arms aspect of things. Any defense, any offense, if it's worth its salt, is going to come in with new things and kind of hack it where it looks like you've shown some weakness in the first several games. That'll be the case for Iowa. But like you said, Spencer, I expect Jim Knowles and company to tighten the hatches just like they've done in every game this year as the game ensues. I mean, when you give up 60, 65 yards, forget about points in the second half to a team that had whatever it was, 170 in the first half, which I'm talking about Michigan State, you've done your job defensively. If people's barometer or bar for this defense is not to give up a point, then you're living in the wrong era. That was back in the mid 70s. So I agree with you about the over under, but of course I picked the over in this game, 41-13. That's way over.
Andy, any closing thoughts before I get us out?
Let's go over Victoria Falls.
I think the points given up for the season can't really be a concern at this point. I think it's probably more of the beginning struggles, those first couple drives I talked about. I think those will get sorted out. I doubt Ohio State's going to have that issue the entire season. It's better to have that issue right now and get those things sorted out. Jim Knowles talking about maybe playing some more press man coverage in certain situations. I think he's open to adjusting. I think that's what makes him so good as a defensive coordinator. I think we'll see that going forward. It's another thing to note, too, that they haven't given up the explosive plays that they did in 2022. They were good about that in 2023. They've been good about that so far in 2024. So that's something else to be positive about defense. I get why there's some criticism, but I agree with you, Tim, that the bottom line is the points given up, and that matters more than the yards given up. And when you only give up 27 through 4 weeks, it's a pretty good thing. But yeah, we'll keep going week by week, kind of evaluating. That's what this defense wants. So they want to be held to the highest of standards. They want to be historically great, not just great within the context of Ohio State. So
yeah,
they kind of asked for it.
I'm just
So-
saying I'd be happy with the numbers I've seen from this defense so far. You know, even the stats. I mean, they have beaten teams the way they're supposed to beat teams. Like I said, everybody's going to have something new for you. And usually they reveal it in the first couple of series of the games. But the way this defense has adjusted has been interesting. I don't think we'll see any different on Saturday.
Ohio State, Iowa should be fun. 3:30 on Saturday on CBS. Two old school Big Ten rivals going at it. Kirk Ferentz making his umpteenth trip to the Horseshoe. Tim May, he's been there for all of them. 41-year vet. He's on the other side of your screen. Andy Backstrom, he's in the middle there, and I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to Bold Predictions, offensive game, player of the game predictions, defensive player of the game predictions, and then, of course, the score predictions. We can't leave without those. For now, we're going to get back to LettermenRow.com and write about the Buckeyes like we do every day, 365 days a year. For Tim, for Andy, I'm just Spencer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys in the Horseshoe on Saturday for Ohio State and Iowa.